Hello, listeners. Hope everybody's doing well. Enjoying this Sunday. I wanted to do a chat session today. I got a interesting topic that I wanted to dive into. It's pretty in depth, so there's many layers to it. So I want to kind of talk about it a bit. But before I get into that, just a couple things I want to address. I shared a channel on my community post. It's the Skinny, I believe, with Joey Merlino. What brought it to my attention was it popped up on my Instagram feed, and I noticed this person who was a defendant in a couple cases, I believe, and they were impacted impacted directly by lying informants. And what caught my attention was they did an Instagram short, basically explaining, this content creator explained how he's going to be addressing and exposing the lying informants on his case, and also the tilted scales of the justice system as it relates to what he had experienced. So I'm really looking forward to that. To me, that's tremendous whenever anybody directly impacted has an opportunity to tell their side, just to get it out there. So again, the viewers could hear all sides and then decide where they conclude on certain issues. But for me, that's really what holds power. You get a lot of these content creators, they say, oh, we're going after rats and informants, and meanwhile they're platforming them every episode that they do. So it's complete oxymoron to even say that statement. They've given them the platform, so they're not going after anybody. But people like this new channel I just recommended, the Skinny with Joey Merlino, to me, that's what really holds water. These are people who understand it, understand that they see the hypocrisy, and in one breath saying you don't like informants, and in the next breath mixing with them in the chat and putting them on your platform and addressing them. So I'm just looking forward to that. So I wanted to share it. I think it'll be very interesting. And as always, myself, we push back. I'll always support the voice for the voiceless, people who are coming out and talking. They'll always have my support, and any way I could help them, I will. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. The other kind of housekeeping thing is court's in session will be coming out soon, and that will feature the case with Howard Santos being cross-examined. Lying informant Howard Santos, he's on YouTube. He's being cross-examined at the time by Charles Carnesi, who I just want to say personally, I knew Charles not very, very well. We just worked on a case together, but we did go out to eat a few times, had several conversations, and I just want to say the man was always a gentleman. I always held him in high regard. He was a talented lawyer, but just as a person, he was really a great human being. So I just wanted to say that. And I'm looking forward to that. I think the audience will enjoy that. It's pretty long. I believe it was a 2-day cross, so it's pretty extensive. The guy I have working on it told me by the first week in October it should be done. So that's that. Today I wanted to kind of get into the whole concept of beliefs and behavior, right? A lot of times on the internet, I'm in many different genres, folks. Lately, don't ask me how, and that's what made me start thinking about it. I wound up in these channels where they hunt feral animals. Now, I know the animal lovers will hate that, but I'm just kind of into that stuff. I'm not a hunter myself. I don't know, this guy goes around, he goes to like these farms that are getting ravaged by rats, actual rats, eating the feed, tormenting the animals, the livestock, and they hire companies to go in there and kind of pick them off with like rifles. And again, I know the animal lovers will hate it, and it's all going to kind of go into what I'm talking about. So my point is, you have kind of two sides to that issue, right? You have a guy who's eradicating rats. He's helping out a farmer. He's helping out the livestock. He's helping the guy with his business. And then you have the animal lovers who are saying, oh, why are you killing these things? I mean, if you read the comments, it's like World War III, people going back and forth. The real high, the people who hold animals in high regard and can't see past that, can't understand the logic in killing them for any reason. And then the people who are a little more logical and they see the business sense of it, I guess, or the impact they have on their farm and on the environment in their area, and they're looking to eradicate based on that. We know about overpopulation and they allow hunters, so it kind of ties into that. My point just is, you have an issue and there's two sides on it who feel very strongly one way or the other. They don't want to hear anything but don't kill animals. And then you have the other side saying, well, we have to remove these animals because of X, Y, and Z. And you see some huge argumentative and nasty debates. A lot of name calling gets nasty. And I think that happens in pretty much every genre, depending on the issue. And what happens quite often, and it started to get me to think about, what are you really judging these content creators on? Their internal beliefs or their behavior? And I have to go with the behavior. These aren't, when we meet each other in this kind of space, we don't know each other. We don't know where each other comes from. We don't know each other's backgrounds. You're dealing globally, right? Throughout the whole world. So you could come across people in all different types of societal atmospheres or environments, belief backgrounds, belief systems, and you try to just interact based on what you do have in common. So you could only judge them by their behavior. So when I'm dealing with a content creator, that's what I do. I judge them by their behavior of the content that I subscribe to and support. They may do other types of content that isn't for me, and I just don't watch it and I don't engage with it. But what happens a lot on YouTube, say somebody's covering RC cars and that's all they talk about. You may get some people who don't like that content creator say, okay, on this channel, you're covering RC cars, but all your supporters should know about your belief system. And people have different belief systems. A lot of systems I don't agree with, and I'm sure a lot of people don't agree with my belief system. Look at my beliefs on the informants. The majority of people on the internet don't agree with my beliefs. So you have different types of people. People may say, well, Dominic believes this. I want nothing to do with him. And then you have people say, okay, Dominic may believe this. I don't believe in it, but I like other things he does. So I'll still support him and engage with him. And then you have some people who align with exactly what I align with, and it's just a no-brainer. So there's different levels, of how you engage with somebody. And it all depends on, I think, what your personal meter is. And for me, especially on the internet, when you're not talking about friends in real life that you're hanging out with, you're having at your house, you're going out to eat with. For me, my meter is a little more broad and a little more open because the relationship is one that was built on a virtual platform. So I give leeway for that. I allow for the fact that, well, I found this content creator based on the content they're doing that I align with, not based on the content they may do that I don't align with. So that's what I focus on. And I think people look to pick apart one another's beliefs on here in the belief system. And me, I'm a little different. I don't like to cast stones, and I'll tell you why. My whole life, and even recently on the internet, I've always faced people will classify, say, my background as something they don't align with. They'll go by labels that may be placed on family members of mine. And then all of a sudden, boom, I'll be labeled, oh, the gangster's kid, they're all lowlives, they're all degenerates. That's their right. That's how they look at it. There's nothing I could do to change that. All I could do is just go about my business and try to be what I deem a good person and go that way. And for those who see it, great. Those who don't. Because some people have a personal belief that if somebody's labeled or somebody in a family's labeled organized crime or whatever, they want nothing to do with those people. I've seen them put anybody that's labeled organized crime, they consider them just as bad as, an MS-13 or all these different groups and gangs. And that's their right to do so. For me, I see things differently. I don't go out there talking about how I see things differently because I respect everybody's point of view. They're entitled to that. I don't live in their shoes. They don't live in my shoes. So maybe they just can't relate to my way of thinking and I can't relate to their way of thinking. I don't come on here and try to say who I think's a good person, or I try to tell people, if somebody's labeled organized crime, they're a great person. For me, all of that stuff, folks, regardless of what people are labeled, usually it's a case-by-case basis. Now, there's certain things I have a hard line on, and that's why I don't throw stones, because I understand everybody has different hard lines, right? I have hard lines if somebody's a pedophile, proven pedophile. That's not a case-by-case. You're a pedophile, I want nothing to do with it. Other people have those hard lines on if somebody has a belief system where, say, they don't like a certain group of people, right? So if you have somebody who's racist, or you have somebody who doesn't like gays, or you have somebody, they'll say, well, they don't like those type of people, so I want nothing to do with them. That's their right. I understand it. That's their right. But to start judging others because maybe they have more of a broader a broader gauge and level of acceptance. That's where I have a little bit of a problem, where they start picking and choosing, because again, it reminds myself where people will label me as a gangster's kid and make me a bad person. I know I'm not a bad person. People may think that. That's fine. People may think my family are bad people. There's nothing I can do about that. I know I'm not. And that's really all that matters. My family know that they're not, and the people that matter in my life know they're not. But I'm not going to convince anybody. I'm not going to argue with them. They can think what they want. They want to label people I know or people in my family as bad people. Hey, there's nothing I can do about that. That's everybody's opinion, right? That's all we could do. Just navigate the best we can. Try to conduct ourselves where we're responsible for our actions. And you meet people along the way that you wind up building friendships, great. You meet people along the way that you wind up disliking each other, equally as great. That's life. That happens every day of the week. So for me, I'm a little bit open-minded. And what I mean by that is I've seen things from different content creators that I like that I don't agree with, that I'm totally against. Their beliefs I'm totally against. But that's not the end-all be-all. You know why? It's a little more of a layered type decision-making. I have to weigh a lot. I have to weigh, okay, I may not agree with certain beliefs, but I agree with other beliefs. Then I have to ask myself, do I think this person's a bad person in the sense, are they hurting people? Are they tormenting people? Are they behaving, and it goes to beliefs versus behavior, are they behaving in a way that shows me that their beliefs are leaking into the behavior? And if I see that, I just don't engage. So if somebody's calling somebody racist and I'm on the, I'm watching the material, and they start saying all these things that I deem racist or hateful, I'm just not going to watch anymore. That's it. It's not that big of a thing for me. There's millions of channels. A lot of them propaganda hate. A lot of them propaganda holiness. There's all different things. You have to go to what you like. We could all type in hate words in YouTube and find channels that spread hate. I just don't go to them. It's not for me. So I understand, people will try to label people as certain things, and I don't see the same label. People who try to say, oh, this person, they're a Nazi, they're part of a Nazi group. But yet the evidence doesn't support being part of any group. Now, could be somebody has different beliefs and ideologies that I think are completely ridiculous. And I'm sure people think my ideologies. There may be things I think that individuals think are totally ridiculous and absurd and not the way you should be thinking. But for me, that's not the end-all, be-all. If we disagree on beliefs and I see behavior I don't agree with, I have to weigh the entire situation. I have to see if I've been following the content creator. What is the material I've been following for 2 years? Does the material exhibit any of that, those beliefs that I don't agree with? Is anybody trying to force something down my throat? Is the content creator trying to propaganda to me, trying to convince me to hate certain races, to hate certain groups of people? No, I don't experience that. So I have to factor all that in. Yes, there's things maybe I've seen, things that I've looked at. And I'm not the type of people that say, oh my God, I've seen this, but I didn't see this, or I didn't see this. No, I see everything. I look at everything. But I'm not shocked by a lot of things. I've seen a lot in my life. Again, I've had family members charged with horrible things that they didn't do, they were innocent of. So I don't just go by charges and this. I have to look at the entirety of the situation. I have to look at everything. I can't look at labels. I just can't, because I've experienced how many times those labels are falsely put on individuals. So I have to understand it. And I know, there's been so on social media, people try to bring things to my attention. There's one channel. He was tagging me on things about a certain content creator, showing links to how this content creator may have beliefs that tie into I guess Nazi beliefs, I guess you would call it. I'm not educated on that, so forgive me if I'm not using the right terminology on different things. But yeah, I guess like Nazi beliefs. Okay, that's what they uncovered. That's what they believe. I'm not the morality police. If you're against that person, don't deal with them. If that's what you think sums up their entirety, don't deal with them. For me, it takes a lot more to sum up what somebody's about, and I have to observe their behavior. And what's funny is a lot of these people, I know the person who kept trying to tag me on social media, on Twitter, and I blocked them. I want nothing to do with the individual. Things I've seen this person do, I don't align with. I'm not going to come on here and say, well, I don't disagree. I disagree with you because you did X, Y, and Z. It is what it is. I just don't deal with people I don't agree with their behavior. That's it. So I see a lot of stone throwing from people in glass houses. They do their own misdeeds, but yet they're very quick to say, well, my misdeed isn't as bad as this misdeed. And granted, in your eyes it may not be. In my eyes it may not be. But in others' eyes it may be. You don't know. There's a lot of different belief systems. And again, that's why I go by behavior. And I was thinking of this example. When you talk about beliefs, you'll get, let's talk about, I'm a Roman Catholic. Now, I always say I'm not a good practicing Roman Catholic because I'm just not. I don't believe everything in the Bible, and I don't align with everything that my religion tells me to align with, and I'll tell you why. Die-hard Roman Catholics who go by everything in the Bible, you have to understand something. In the Bible, it does say about homosexuality, not going into heaven and how it's a sin and it's a bad thing and they'll go to hell. I don't believe that. I believe the God I believe in is a forgiving God, and I think he goes by what's in your heart, not by certain things, not by your sexual preference. I just don't believe that. Okay, I believe he goes by what's in your heart if you're a good person. But diehard Roman Catholics, they may have all their morals in order, right? I mean, but they believe that. There's even that group, what is that? That God hates the F word group. And they go around in the name of God and citing the Bible. They're citing the Bible, they're holding the Bible, and they're protesting about anybody who's homosexual. They're calling them the F word, and they're saying God hates you. That's hate coming from a religious standing. From a power, from God, who's all loving, but they're saying hateful things. So it gets very gray when you go into belief system and if that equals a high moral person. Unfortunately, and it's embarrassing for me because it's my church, the Catholic Church. God forgive me, folks. I just don't trust them as far as I could throw them. I have big faith in my Lord. I have big faith in saints and things like that. I have tremendous faith in God. I have no doubt that he exists. That's just my own personal belief, right? But I don't recognize really the whole Catholic Church system. I've seen too many things where they hide these low-life degenerate pedophiles, things that I'm totally against, so I can't support it. Now, I love my God, I love my faith, but I don't support the Catholic system, the church system. I don't support it. I've seen what they do to hide these pedophiles, so I can't support that, right? Doesn't mean I turn my back on my faith. I recognize those are just humans. Those are just men and, low lives. Some of them are low lives. And there's a lot of great priests. Though I'm not making a blanket judgment. I told you I don't do that. There's a lot of great priests. But there's a lot of priests in there who they're preaching the word of God. They're saying all these morally correct things, right? Their beliefs, going back to what I said, their beliefs are intact, right? They believe honorable things all coming from the Bible. Some may say yes, no, but the majority of people say, oh, if you believe in everything like that, you're a morally grounded person, right? If you're that holy. To me, that's not true, because you get these priests, yeah, they believe in all that, they preach it, but then they're doing these deplorable, degenerate acts to our children. They're the lowest of the low. They should burn in hell. They're worried about homosexuals. They should burn in hell. So that's where I don't put that much weight on somebody's beliefs. I have to watch their behavior. Okay? Because now if you present that priest to me just based on beliefs, you'd be like, oh, that's a morally grounded person. That's a great person. But then if you follow their behavior, you're like, wait a minute. Screw their beliefs. I'd much rather they were like Satan worshipers who didn't hurt children. Then I'd be like, all right, you're a degenerate for worshiping Satan, but you're not hurting no kids. I don't know. I just look at the actions much more under a much more stronger focus than somebody's beliefs, especially, and I can't stress this enough, especially in a virtual atmosphere where you're dealing with social media, where you're dealing with YouTube's, Twitter. You're not going to coffee with people. You're not hanging out with people. You're not having them over your house. You're not going to meals. These are these type of relationships. So the behavior for me is what guides me. So when I'm following a creator and everything I'm following doesn't reflect hate, propaganda, hate speech, hating on groups, then there's no issue for me. There's no issue for me. Okay? If that stuff starts coming my way, if I build a rapport with that creator and they start telling me that kind of crazy crap or trying to convince me of anything, it's very simple. You know what? Not for me. Those are the type of things I don't believe in. I don't think there's any, I don't think we have anything in common. And you move on. That hasn't happened to me, though. I haven't had any creator try to push anything down their throat, talk about anything, even speak hate. Now, people want to say, oh, well, creators say nasty stuff. They'll say racial terms. Yes, I hear all that. Again, something I look at differently, folks. I grew up in a different time. And I'm not using that as an excuse. Don't misunderstand me. We all evolve and things change. But if you go back, people change at different levels. People change based on different experiences, maybe, based on what education, maybe exposure. You know, they change for different reasons. Everybody evolves. So you can't knock people who maybe use things that are a little antiquated, say certain terms that are... When I was a kid, folks, if they had tapes of me as a kid talking, I'm sure I said so much terrible, bad stuff that's not politically correct today. You know, even like I would use the R word for, you know, people who maybe have a mental disability. Like a mental disability, I guess. And now as a father, and, you know, down the road I'll be a grandfather and as an uncle. I don't like to use that word. I just don't. Thank God, you know, I don't really experience that in my family, but I have friends. I have friends who have sick children. I do have family members who have different issues, but nothing on that level, I guess, or people I should say. I know, but my point just is, I make a clear choice of trying not to use that word. I'm sure I slip up. I'm not perfect. I'm sure I slip up when I'm with my friends. But those are all individual choices as time goes by, right? As we mature, we'll be like, maybe I shouldn't say that so much. Maybe it has this impact. You know, when you're younger, you use words, you say phrases. You don't really think about the impact it has because that's just your lingo. That's the culture you grew up in. In all our households, I'm sure we heard slang that maybe if we said it publicly, it would not be received in the most high regard. But we know times change, things change. Maybe generational, it changed too. You know, if we go back to, like, depending on our background, we go back to our grandfather, our parents, they may have used terms we don't agree with anymore. They may have used racial terms. That's just life, folks. And anybody who tells you different, they're full of crap. Anybody who tries to say, oh, we say this, we only talk this way, I just find it hard to believe. It's a vernacular, it's slang. There's no hate behind it. Sometimes things slip out. There's no ill intent, and that's what I look for. What's the intent? Are they using it because they're mad? Are they using it because this is just part of their terminology? Are they using it based on their background? This is how they grew up, but they don't really have hate. They're not spreading hate. They're not hurting people. And that's big to me. How do they treat other people? I always gauge people based on how they're treating others. That's important to me. I always try to treat others with respect. I always try to help people I can if I feel I could do something to help. But it's a two-way street. If I feel a person is taking advantage or trying to make a sucker out of me, then everything changes. But I always try to judge people, and I also try to put my best foot forward where I try to give individuals the benefit of the doubt and be a good person. Do I always succeed? No. Am I always a good person? No, I'm not. But I try. It's a process, and every day you try. You may make a mistake one day, and then the next day you say, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to improve on that. That's how I live my life. You know, I try to improve. I'll see things I'm not crazy about. I'll try to improve. And again, say I'm building a friendship with somebody who has wacky beliefs and belief system. During the course of the friendship, I'm a very blunt person. I'll ask things. I'll confront things. I'll make it clear what I don't agree with. I'll try to understand why they agree certain things. And I'll make it known, well, you and I do not have any of that in common, but we have this in common. And, you know, we could kind of have a friendship based on this. It's all individual based, and it all depends on the severity of what took place. I have friends in my life who've been accused of some things that I don't agree with. They may have done time for things that I don't agree with, but we built a friendship anyway. Maybe in their past, they may just had to do certain things out of necessity. You don't know. So for me, it's very detailed. It's very layered. I can't just make blanket statements. I can't look at videos and judge somebody on videos. I can't look at posts and judge somebody on posts. How many times do people make crazy tweets, right? There'll be a tweet, somebody will say something that's racially charged, and society looks to cancel them. Maybe they got pissed, maybe they said, but that's not what's in their heart. They're not a bad person. For me, it's very black and white. There's good people, there's bad people, there's evil people, right? I just feel you have to give people enough room where you could judge them and understand if they're really a good person, bad person, evil person, based on their actions, based on what they're doing. And that's really my guide. My guide is judging them based on the behavior. And that's what I want to be judged on, based on my behavior. Again, if the internet was around when I was a kid, I was a wild kid. I did crazy stuff. I don't know. People may judge me differently. They may be like, oh, look what you did when you were a kid. You were this and that. So I don't know. I just don't like to cast stones because I'm not this holier than thou Mother Teresa type person. So I can't judge people who maybe do things different than me or do things that I interpret as horrible or something I'm completely against or something deplorable. I have to look at, well, what did they do? I have to understand it. All right, they're preaching their beliefs. They're spreading what they believe to be true. Are they impacting people? Are they hurting people? Are they tormenting people? It's all part of the puzzle, folks. All things I think you have to weigh when you're judging somebody. And especially when you're judging, I don't think that the criteria to judge somebody you meet on the internet or that you interact with on the internet is as strict as it should be in real life. That's just for me. I follow a lot of people on Twitter. I subscribe to a ton of pages on YouTube. I don't know these people. They may be closet lowlifes. I'm just not aware of it. But the content I'm watching, that's what I found and that's what I'm watching. So it's very hard to really use that gauge in the social media verse where you're following people, interacting with people, where you need to know what they're all about from A through Z. I don't think that's a reality. And I think when people start to try to pick and choose, well, this person did this, well, now you're going to blanket that rule? Are you going to look into everybody you follow, everybody you associate with on social media and have all background checks done on them and make sure you agree with their beliefs 100%? Can you guarantee everybody you interact with and follow with on social media and on YouTube or wherever, Instagram, can you guarantee they never made racially charged posts or did racial material or hateful material or did things you don't agree with or were charged with a crime you don't agree with? Of course not. You can't guarantee that. And then people will have videos and they may, again, that guy who kept tagging me, I know who the individual is, so I understand what his agenda is and what his angle is. And I understand he takes it serious. I'm not minimalizing it. It is a serious issue. It's just one piece of the puzzle for me. You see, I don't look at one thing or five things and say, okay, that's it. I try to look at everything I've experienced before I render my decision on whether or not I choose to interact with somebody. I have to go by my personal experience overall and factor in everything. And I have to factor in, are their belief systems out of whack? Do we agree on anything? Is their behavior something I align with? Is what the material they're putting out that I'm watching, not the stuff I'm not watching, the material I'm watching, is that something I agree with? How are they treating people? Again, everything I was speaking about, I need to factor in all that. Now, people may disagree, and that's the difference between myself and others. I respect everybody's opinion. They may disagree with me and say, Dominic, if you have anything to do with somebody who put out a video about hate, you're a piece of garbage. They're entitled to that opinion. I can't change that. And I'm not going to appease them by saying, oh, yeah, you're right. Let me not watch this one. Listen, it's difference of opinion. I look at it differently. I look at it from a different set of eyes. Like I said, I personally deal with labels and people trying to say my family member are bad people, evil people. I don't agree with that. Now, they totally disagree, a lot of people. They'll say, no, they're labeled organized crime, they're bad people, they're degenerates, they're lowlifes. That's what they say. I'm not going to change that, folks. I recognize that. I'm not here to change that. I understand. Everybody has a difference of opinion. Everybody has a different level on what they consider a bad person, an evil person. There's nothing I could do with that. So for me, I have my own meter. I have to look at all the levels. Okay? I'm against all that. Nazis are degenerates to me. Hate groups are degenerates to me. Things I don't agree with. I don't agree with hating people like that and blanket statements. I just don't agree with that on certain groups of people. And again, think about it, folks. I'm a hypocrite myself. I'll tell you why I'm a hypocrite. I don't believe in certain blanket rules on people, right? But if somebody's an informant, guess what? I put a blanket rule on them. I treat them all the same. So I recognize my own hypocrisy, and there's nothing I could do about that. I'm human. I'm not that evolved. I'm not that intelligent, I guess. A more intelligent person would probably be able to make that separation. My belief system won't allow me to do that. So my logical side, right? My logical side understands that the blanket statement is not fair. It's just not. But my belief system, my morals, and more when I'm thinking with my heart and not my brain, I kind of override. I override that and I become a hypocrite because I say, well, if you're an informant, I treat you all the same. So I recognize that. But the difference is I recognize everybody has those different levels of hypocrisy, right? Something that they may feel so strongly about that they recognize they have to be a hypocrite on it. So I understand that. Somebody may see these hate group things and feel so strongly about it that they're going to say, well, I'm blanket statement. I see the one thing, that person's a lowlife and anybody who deals with them's a lowlife. Okay, that's your opinion. I get it. I get it. I feel very similar with informants and anybody who deals with them. So I get it. But the only difference for me, it goes back to, like I said, with beliefs versus behavior. With informants, for me, and this is my logic, folks. I'm not trying to convince anybody. I want you to just understand my way of thinking. And you probably won't agree with it, but it's my way of thinking. With the informants, their behavior is what I'm so against. Their beliefs, obviously, because they don't believe in anything, but their behavior. And what I mean by that is the act of hurting other people and jamming up other people to avoid self-accountability. They're actually hurting people. They're hurting families. They're lying about people. They're making up stories about people. Those are actions I'm against. So everything they're doing, I'm so strongly against, I just can't overlook it. And I can't overlook anybody who deals with people like that. Now, again, as I said, makes me a hypocrite because I'm saying I don't like blanket statements, but I'm making a blanket statement on informants. Yes. And honestly, I'll make the same blanket statement on pedophiles and on rapists. So that's my hypocrisy center. I have about 3 or 4 groups of people that I have a hypocrisy center for where I don't like blanket statements, but I do make it about them. And that's my fault as a human being. That's something that's a fault. That's not a good characteristic to have, I don't think. I think that's a fault of mine, but I recognize it, and it's just something internally. If I'm being honest with myself, I'm being honest. I'm not going to try to paint it something else. So yes, I could be called a hypocrite for that. Where it relates to that, I agree. And I am where it relates to that. But the difference is I don't try to say my way's the right way. See, I don't come on here and say, well, I'm right and you're all wrong. A lot of people do that. A lot of people say, well, if you don't see that we're classifying this guy as a racist, as a Nazi, as a homophobe, if you don't see it that way, then you're just as bad. Okay, that's your opinion. Nothing I can do about that. I don't see it that way. I don't think I'm just as bad. I don't hate people. I don't judge people. I don't hate groups of people. I don't align with those ideologies of that person. Let's just say, if that person believes certain things, yeah, he and I don't align on that stuff. But guess what? We align on other things that we build a friendship on. Other things that we do have in common. Serious beliefs that we do have in common. So like any relationship, things you agree with, things you don't agree with. But if it's never, the things we don't agree with, if it's never brought up in discussion, I never see it. It's never forced on me. It's never talked about. I just don't have an issue with it. We've bonded on other things. I don't see any behavior displayed exhibiting that's being forced down my mouth. Yeah, I see a lot of talk. I may see a lot of lingo I'm not slang I don't agree with, a lot of statements I don't agree with, but I'm also a good judge of behavior, and I'm also a good judge of seeing why people do certain things. And people may say things out of anger, where they feel they're being attacked, and they may pour it on more. They may pour on that hate card more. And I have a little bit of that in me too. You know, I'll tell people in the sense, like, I'll get spiteful and just go over the top. Like if somebody's saying, let's just say somebody says, I don't believe in God, right? And after 5 times, I say, listen, I believe in God. I love God. After the 5th time, you know what I'm going to say? You're right. I don't believe in God. I'm an atheist. What are you going to do about it? That's actually how I roll. So I get that. If somebody keeps they're trying to have a conversation and they're just not listening to what you're telling them and they're just making their own assumptions, well, it's falling on deaf ears. So I'll reverse it. I'll say, yeah, that's right. I don't believe in God. What are you going to do about it? I'm an atheist. What are you going to do about it? Do something about it. That's just how I operate. So I look at all interactions. I see why things were said. I see the context of it. I try to understand what took place. I try to understand if these are, different snapshots you may see. It may be like friends hanging out, breaking balls, inappropriately maybe, saying things off color, saying slang, saying racial terms, homophobic terms, things that none of us approve of. Not none of us. Things that people don't approve of. On different levels, everybody individually. I may not approve of it, others may not approve of it. But to me, I don't put much stock in those type of clips when I see people with their family or friends. They're trying to be comfortable. They're letting their hair out. You don't know somebody's humor. Some people have dark humor, inappropriate humor. Think of all the comedians. I'm 46. I think of the comedians from when I was younger. Richard Pryor, Don Rickles, all the roasts. Think of the things they said. Imagine them saying these things now. Times change, culture changes, how we treat people changes, how we view people changes. My grandfather would always tell me stories when he came to America. Man, they would call him Dago, Wop. They would spit on him. He remembers seeing a sign that says no colors and no Italians. He remembers that on a sign. But the world's evolved, right? Things change. People get more exposure. They get to know each other. They start to let go of maybe their internal bias that they may have had, that maybe they grew up with, that was passed down generation to generation. It's all an evolution. I raised my kids the same way I was raised. My dad always raised me. You treat people how they treat you. He always said, I don't care if they're black, brown, yellow, orange, green, purple. Doesn't matter to me, he used to tell me. He says, you treat them how they treat you. And you know what else he used to tell me? He used to always say, forget about the whole bullshit. Well, if you got to like all Italians because they're Italian. He goes, forget about it. He goes, a lot of the times people are in jail is because of other Italians. So he told me, he goes, I'm here because of Italians. He goes, forget about that shit. I treat people how they treat me. And that's how I always felt. I have relationships with all different types of people, and I ain't going to get into that because that's always the move, right? When people try to prove oh, I'm all loving, they try to say I have a relationship with I'm not getting into that. All I could say is, yeah, I have a relationship with all different types of people. Okay? So that's how I judge people. What's in their core? What's on their inside? That's how I raised my family. I continue that going on. But I'm sure at some time that changed. I guarantee. I'm in no fantasy world. I guarantee if I go back a few generations, I remember some of the stuff my grandparents used to say. They said that in public, forget about it. They'd be canceled immediately. So I'm sure if I go back generations, I'm sure it was more intense. I'm sure there was a lot of bias going on in my lineage. But as time goes by and you evolve, you look to make that change based on your education, based on your experiences, based on how you deal with people. And you have to factor all that in. Some people are very isolated. Some people don't get the exposure of different races, different cultures. So they have their internal bias they were born with, right? And nothing in their life will change that because they never experienced the other side of that coin. They never experienced interacting with people. I went to public school my whole life. I dealt with all different cultures, diversity. So none of that was new to me growing up in New York. It's very diversified. But you get people in different areas, different countries, different states. They may be more segregated in the sense that they don't see other cultures, other types of sexual preference. So they're much more closed off to it and much more intolerable of it. Others may be more tolerable because they have experienced more. They have a better education. When I say education, I don't mean how far in school you went. Yes, that factors in too, but I just mean education through observation, education through experiences. That all builds your education. And at that time, that's when we as people start to decide how we want to live life. Do we want to let go of some of those biases? Do we want to work hard on our vernacular and the terms we use and drop some of the past terms. Like with me, I changed my a lot of the slang I used. If I used to say the R word years ago, I try not to say that no more. I try to be sensitive to certain things because even though I know in my heart, I'm not saying it to make fun of people with an affliction. It's just a term I grew up with. I'm recognizing that it offends people and it hurts people who maybe have a family member in that situation. So I try to be sensitive to that. But I know in my heart, I'm not trying to insult somebody who has a condition. That's degenerate to me. My heart breaks for that. As a father, I can't imagine dealing with that. My heart would break. So what I try to do is just change my behavior in light of trying to be sensitive to others, especially in a public format. I'm sure in my private life I mess up, but I'm around friends who kind of have the same gauge as me and they know who I am. They know I'm not an evil person or a bad person. But in a public setting, I try to be conscious of that. I try to represent myself in a way where I don't come across as somebody who's biased or closed-minded. I try to be very careful with my words because that's not what's inside me. People may interpret it differently. Perfect example. People may try to say, oh, because you're friends with a certain content creator, then that means we think this person's racist. We think this person's an evil person. Now we think you are. There's nothing I can do about that, folks. They're going to think whatever they want to think. I'm not here to convince anybody of who I am as a person. They could believe about me whatever they want. They could join the club. Like I said, I already have a lot of titles on me and labels, so it's just another one to put on. You want to make me an evil person? Excuse me. You want to make me racist? You want to make me whatever? Okay. There's nothing I can do about that. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. I'm going to keep living my life. I'm going to keep conducting myself in the manner I do. And I'm going to keep the relationships I have. And I'm going to build more relationships. And I'm going to keep the friends I have. And I guarantee you one thing, it's not going to bother any of my relationships. Everybody knows what I'm about who deals with me. It means nothing to them. They don't go by some random comments on the internet trying to make some association, trying to paint somebody as something they're not because they don't believe in or they don't like or they don't support what maybe a content creator does that I may have a relationship with. There's nothing I can do about that. They want to make that tie-in, they make the tie-in. They want to tag me in posts and I'll just block them every time. Something like that deserves a conversation. I always say it. Everybody has my number. This person, I know, I have a feeling who it is. They know how to get in touch with me. Everything's on the internet. We can have a conversation, and I'll say to you personally what I'm saying right now. But I'm not going to go back on social media with these crazy tags and try to convince somebody who already has their mind made up. I'm not going to tell you if I don't think somebody's an evil person when you already have your mind made up. I can't get into everything I just explained in 40 minutes on social media, on a tweet, going back and forth. That's not for me. I know why they're doing that. They're doing that for the exposure of it, right? For the shocking nature of it. Oh, look, I'm going back and forth with Dominic Correa. I'm calling him a racist too. I know why they're doing it. They want the platform. They want the audience. They want the ooh and ah. I don't take part in circuses, folks. You want to have a conversation with me? No problem. Email me. We'll set up a time to talk. It's very simple. I have no problem talking to people about things, my opinion on stuff. I just don't get on here publicly, try to cram it down people's throat, try to convince people. This individual has his mind made up. This individual feels a certain way. There's nothing I can do about that. I could just stay in my lane and keep going across. And they make it as if, oh, you're sitting by idle and you're co-signing. What exactly am I co-signing? You're finding videos on somebody who may be doing things that propagate hate. Okay, I'm not co-signing any of that. I'm against all of it. And in my relationship, these things never come up. And I don't watch any of the material that's hateful. So I don't know what to tell you. I share channels all the time. I engage. I build relationships with certain people. And I like the content creator that they're trying to attack, they're trying to bash. I don't care who agrees with that, who don't agree with that, who wants to be like, oh, you're going to have egg on your face. What am I going to have egg on my face about? About what? This is my decision. Say something comes out on another content creator that I was hanging out with. And it's something I'm totally against, and I find out they were doing degenerate things behavior-wise. It's very easy for me. I cut the relationship off. There's no egg on my face. Don't care. Don't care that much about it. Yeah, I may have liked somebody, and then guess what? I woke up one day, I seen things I didn't like. Now I don't like them no more. Where's the egg on my face? People really put too much stock in their opinion and optics. I don't care how people judge me. I don't care how people view things. I am who I am, and I'm not changing for anybody. Nonetheless, anonymous people on the internet that I never met, nonetheless, content creators who think they have a more important self-importance that they just don't have. Think whatever you want. Doesn't matter to me. I'm going to keep going along. And things come out on different people all the time. Who knows what the future thinks? People may hear a past episode I did that they don't agree with, may say, hey, Dom, I don't want to be a friend no more. Okay, I don't know what to tell you. I would say maybe they see a post I made, but I was never really on social media. I only do it for business. So, but my point is maybe something, oh, you know what? Maybe somebody will be like, oh my God, I didn't know you were related to this person and this person's no good. I want nothing to do with you. Okay, bye. And it's like, all right, okay. There's nothing I can do about that. Everybody has different meters, They may just not be comfortable with engaging with somebody after they witness certain things, whether they heard certain things. And we're all different. We all have our own meter that we could use, and there's a different set of systems. Like I said, it's very layered for me. It's not that cut and dry. I need to understand. I need to evaluate, and also I need to see the behavior. I've seen so much actual behavior initially from content creators on channels I may come across where I know instantly the person's not for me. I've seen creators bashing women repulsively, insulting people's family members, insulting their kids in sexual ways. That's one thing I can't be around, like sexual talk, degenerate sexual talk about people. They'll say all kinds of sexual innuendos and things like that. When I see that, that's one of my meters. I don't want to engage anymore with this person. And people are way different than me. People will hear all those things. They'll have their families abused. They'll hear all this degenerate stuff, and they're still comfortable talking with people. Does that make them right and me wrong, or vice versa? No. It's just different levels of meters, different levels of acceptability, and also a different gauge on how much interaction they want to have with somebody. They may think it's okay to have a little interaction. They're comfortable with it, but maybe they're not friends with them or having them over, but they're comfortable with the engagement. Whereas maybe I'm not. Or maybe there's somebody I'm comfortable engaging with that they're not. I think that's the problem. Everybody tries to push their own personal values or their own personal hard lines in the sand. They try to push that on everybody else, and I don't do that. I think everybody could only do what they're comfortable with and what feels right internally. You should never do something because you're forced to do something or because it's the popular way of doing things. You should do things because they feel right or they feel wrong or until you're comfortable. That's how I navigate. I do things based on my comfort level, and I decide to either grow a relationship or disengage from a relationship based on my comfort level, based on my personal one-on-one experience, things that I personally have observed, witnessed, and took note of. I like to see how people are treated. I like to see, you can tell a lot just by how they treat people, different content creators, how they treat people of color, people of different sexual orientations. You could just tell. That's important to me. How are they treating them? They may have a certain belief system, whereas they don't believe in certain things. They don't believe in behaviors, but they don't treat them any differently. They treat them with respect, and that's all you could have. I may have my certain judgments on people, but I could be respectful and I could be cordial. You could still offer a level of respect depending on situation. And I think that's the problem. People don't recognize the diversity and how things could vary on who has a hard line on what. I shared a channel, I think yesterday or today, about a gentleman. He goes after anybody who claims stolen valor. If they say they were in the military and they're not, this guy's on a campaign to expose them. He takes it very seriously. Other people may not. Other people may be like, what's the big deal? It all depends. For me, I think that's very insulting for those who served, to go around pretending you served when people lost their lives. To me, you're stripping them of what they accomplished. You're trying to minimize it by saying you accomplished something that you never did, that they devoted their life to. So again, different meters. That channel I shared, I'm sure that guy takes stolen valor very seriously. It's what's important to people. Some people take things, hate groups, which I'm one of those people. I take that very seriously. I won't support a hate group. I think their ideology is flawed. I think to have that kind of hate for people, just based on you disagreeing with maybe their behavior, I think that's wrong. Don't agree with it at all. Don't agree with it at all. But again, I have to see what took place to convey that. What's this person doing to convey that? Are they actively preaching hate? Are they actively behaving in a way that demonstrates hate? Are they hating on people right in front of me that I'm witnessing? Are they disrespecting people? You have to weigh all those elements. And what people try to do on social media, like this individual on Twitter, they'll try to associate people, to try to make you feel bad about yourself. The individual keeps tagging me. Rather than just send me an email, you want to have a conversation, let's talk. I'll tell you how I feel. It'll pretty much be everything I said in this episode. But that's how I do things, a little more one-on-one. This person likes to make a spectacle, tag people, and then put up, oh, they blocked me to show like something sinister. No, it's very simple. I blocked you because it's white noise to me. It's white noise. I can't tell you what decisions to make, and you're not going to tell me what decisions to make. So if your conclusion is by me having a relationship with, going in channels, commenting, enjoying certain content from different creators, if by doing that you want to then try to say as if I'm backing any kind of hate, you're entitled to do that. There's nothing I can do to prevent that. Think what you want. It's irrelevant to me, actually, what you think and what anybody else thinks. But I can't stop it. The only thing I can control is I'm not going to engage in a circus. A real conversation, one-on-one, always welcome to that. I've said it a million times. I've even invited people that are welcome to stop by and talk. But I don't do the circus social media event. I just don't do that. And I'm pretty certain I know who's doing it, and I'm pretty certain I know why they're doing it. I don't think the reasoning behind why they're doing it is pure. I don't think it's strictly because they care so much about that topic. I think there's more motive to it. It's more of a personal motivation. So I factor all that in as well. Who's coming to me with this info? Do they have an agenda? Do they have a motive? Are they trying to paint it something that isn't? I need to understand it. I need to absorb it. I need to see it. And I've done all that. And I've made my own conclusions on what I feel about the material. And those are personal conclusions. I may feel beliefs are misguided. I may feel beliefs are totally contradictory to what I believe. But again, I look at the whole picture. We may not have 10 things in common, but we may have 20 things in common. So you have to weigh everything. You have to see how the relationship plays out. And that's what I do. And nobody on social media is going to influence in that good, bad, or indifferent. They could judge me. They could group me in with whatever. I'm not concerned about that. Like I said, I've dealt with that my whole life. I've been labeled my whole life. It still goes on. It's in all these forums, all these chats, all kinds of remarks, accusations, insults. That's the nature of the beast. That's life, folks. That's life. It's nothing that I lose sleep about. It's nothing that I'm concerned about. It's just the way it goes. Again, I can only conduct myself in a way that feels right. And that's what I try to do. And then I come on here and I try to explain my thinking. Again, it's not to have anybody agree with it. It's not to convince anybody. I'm just offering my logic and my rationale. I enjoy it sometimes. I enjoy it on this platform. I enjoy to talk in this way with those who want to listen. So that's how I choose to address these certain things, just to give people a little insight about where I'm coming from. And that's why I did it on the chat session. The chat session's a little more personal, has a lot more to do with my opinion and my personal way of thinking and conducting myself. But you just see it so many times. You just see it often. People want to judge you for what your gauge is, what your level of acceptability is. And if it's not the same as them, they want to condemn you, call you evil, call you bad. Well, there's a lot of layers to evil people. I know evil. I've seen evil in my life. We all have had. And I know bad and I know good. And there's different layers. There's some people that I think are bad people that may do good things. And then there's just evil people who everything they do is evil. Again, just nature of the beast. We all can only walk this path in the way we're comfortable. Where I get confused is when you get those who try to force their will on others and force their way of beliefs. And if you disagree, you're a piece of garbage. I disagree with a lot of things. I said it before. I disagree with a lot of behavior. I disagree with people who lie about who they are in a sense where it's not a shtick or comedy. They're trying to portray themselves as somebody they're not. Or they're stealing valor, or they're scamming people. A lot of people scam on here. Scam for money, take people money, or extort people, or dox people, or there's so many different things people do on here. And yet, a lot of those people who do those things and behave in such a manner, then they want to say, well, I may do this, but it's not as bad as this. I don't think that highly of myself where I could start judging that I don't do this and I'm better. I'm not better than anybody. And nobody's better than me. Now, I'm better than, like, pieces of shit. Let me retract that. I am better than some people. If I deem somebody a lowlife, then, yeah, I'm better than that person. But what I mean is content, create beliefs based on that. We're all different. I don't think I'm better than anybody who thinks differently than me. I don't think I'm better. Now, people may behave in a manner that tells me I'm better than them, but not based on their values or how they portray themselves or even just getting to know them. I don't come out of the gate thinking I'm better than somebody. We're all on the same playing field, and then based on our actions, it starts determining, where you fall, where you align, who you align with, who you don't align with. And you see people, 1 year they hate each other, next year they like each other. 1 year what this person did is the worst thing in the world, and then the next week, well, it ain't that bad. They flip and flop. I'm pretty standard. I stay pretty solid in my beliefs, and I'm not going to break them, and I'm not going to pretend, I didn't know about this. When I want to educate myself on something that's in my best interest, I learn everything, and I look at the whole picture. I don't pick highlight reels. I try to understand the entire picture. I read as much as I can. I witness as much as I can. I observe as much as I can, and I try to research as much as I can. Then I try to make a final decision. Some things are still up in the air. I haven't concluded yet. Some things I concluded. It's all different. It's all different. But I have the relationships I have. I make it clear. I share channels of things I like and I support. Don't know everything about the people of the channels I share. Don't even know most of them. I'll share some channels. I just like their content. Boom, I share it. Then I have some people I build a relationship with based on meeting them off of their content. And relationships are still growing, developing. On here, though, you never know, right? Relationships come and go. There's been people I was friendly with that I'm no longer friendly with. And that's it. I don't make a production of it. I don't come on here and say why I'm not friends with the person. I don't try to judge the person. They may do things I don't agree with. I may do things they don't agree with. And it just kind of dissipated. And that was it. I see no point in putting my personal affairs public. I just don't. There's content creators I met that may have been supporters. Now they're not no more. May have liked we push back. Now they don't no more. That's evolving all the time. That's evolving, and relationships change. And I just find it so interesting that people, if they don't like you, they don't like your platform, they don't like what you stand for, they'll look to nitpick every little thing, look to dissect your life. They'll look to dissect your life. And I'm not into that. We all have family. We all have friends. We may have people that we associate with, have done things that maybe we don't support, but we love the person. We appreciate the person. So we'll always have their back, but we may not support certain things they've done in their life. And then imagine having to hear that over and over, and they put it out over and over. It's just something that you got to deal with. That's what goes on social media. If somebody don't like you, they're going to do whatever they can to discredit you. Whatever material you put out is going to be irrelevant to them because they're going to focus on past material or different material and make that the center of attention. So it's up to the individuals to decide what's more important, the content I'm focusing on, understanding that message, building that relationship, or things this creator may have done in their private life or in different areas that you don't agree with. Is that just too powerful of something that goes against your beliefs that you can't engage with the person? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Again, all individual. All individually based. And that's really everything I kind of wanted to get off my chest and just talk about and just give viewers a little insight in how I see the world and how I navigate things and relationships I build and why I do things the way I want to do. And people may listen to this episode and totally disagree with everything I said and make shows saying that I'm this and I'm that and I support this and I support. It is what it is. Can't do nothing about that. I'm not here to do damage control. I'm here to be honest and say how I feel, and it's up to the public. It's up to the viewers. From day one, folks, I said I'm not here to have anybody like me. I'm not here to build friendships. I'm not here to make friends or have relationships. I have all that in my private life. I don't need this platform for that. The ones I've made, the ones I'm building and cultivating, I enjoy it, and I'm grateful for it. I've met a lot of great people, a lot of great supporters. I try to help people when I can if they're good people. I've had many instances where I've helped several people. I don't talk about it. It's just I do it because I want to do it. If I didn't want to do it, I wouldn't do it. It's as easy as that. I've had certain instances where I got scammed thinking I'm helping somebody and they took me for a few bucks. Hey, shame on me. I fell for it. Better luck next time, right? That's how it goes. I got no one to blame but myself. This is the internet. You got to be very careful. You got to do your research. And I know my heart's in the right place with certain things, so I make peace with that. If I give somebody a few dollars and I found out it wasn't for what I gave it to them for, hey, I know my intentions were in the right place, so shame on them, not me. And for me, folks, you know, that's my time. My time on here is really just going where I enjoy the material, trying to learn something, trying to put out information about these lying informants, about the fractured criminal justice system. As time goes by, I know that's going to enhance. People will be coming on and doing things similar to the way I want to do it, and that's all my goal is. One day, when I'm kind of done with this maybe, and I had enough, I'm hoping it just continues on, especially with these lying informants. I hope people who are impacted, defendants, anybody speaks up about them. Even channels I don't like, when they talk about them in a negative light, exposing them, good, do it, run with it. Run with it. Doesn't mean I'm going to put my arm around you and say you're the best guy ever, because I'm not into the inconsistency. But if you do a good episode, hey, God bless. Get it out there. All that stuff's good stuff. You know, these people all think like, oh, this one's jealous of the content and this. I couldn't give a rat's ass about anybody's content. I don't monetize here. I don't give a crap how big my channel gets or don't get. I do what I do for my own peace of mind and my own way of venting, I guess, and just... I feel in my little world I could maybe change one or two juries' mind, or open their mind, or give them more tools to work with so they can render a more fair decision. That's good by me. That's all I'm here for. And I may wake up one day and that'll be that. And I'll feel proud of the material I put out. I'll feel proud of the content, and that'll be that. Another phase of my life. So I really like seeing... I like seeing when people, I'm hoping this one defendant who has the podcast I spoke about, hopefully more will come. I know a few people I'm talking to and have relationships with. We're working on a couple things, and I'm hoping to give them what they need so they could just kind of do their own thing. And those are my goals. They may be minimal to other people. They may be nonsensical to other people. Those are my goals. You know, and people, again, with the compare contrast, people be like, oh, but you're against informants. Why are you bringing light to hate groups and Nazis? That's not what I'm here for, folks. You could do that. There's plenty of channels exposing all that stuff. It's not me saying which one's more important. It's me focusing on what I want to focus on. I'm not that knowledgeable in the other areas to understand the dynamics or to have the contacts to try to do something about it. That's not what motivates me. I'm sure there's a lot of people that are motivated on that front and do that all the time. They try to expose things they're against. I'm against lying informants, and that's what I chose to expose. I'm not on YouTube as a superhero exposing everything I deem wrong. It's not what I'm here for. I have a specific reason why I'm here, and I make that clear time and again. So that's it for today, I think, folks. You know, I guess that's it. It's just really, I think you got to look at the whole picture, and everybody has their own hard lines. And when they start digging into backgrounds, you hear a lot of things. There's content creators that were convicted of sexual assault, drug dealing, breaking into people's house, old man's houses. I mean, all kinds of crazy stuff. But they're on their pedestals saying, well, I may have did this, but it's not as bad as this. We all have different meters. I see sexual assault charges. Somebody was convicted. I understand the case. I understand what took place. That's something I want nothing to do with. That's a person I want nothing to do with on any level at all. And that's me. But a lot of people disagree. A lot of people disagree. They don't see it as that big of a deal. They'll let them on their platform. They'll talk to them. They'll go in their chat. They'll have wrenches in their chats. They have no problem with it. That's them. This is me. I have different meter. They may say, well, you're no good because you support somebody who's they believe is a hateful person. They're entitled to do that. We have different meters. I don't see it that way. They may deem somebody a hateful person that I deem not a hateful person based on what I've witnessed. Not based on speeches, not based on videos, based on what I witnessed, their actual behavior. I didn't see the hate on how they treat people. I don't see that. I see it with a lot of people they platform. I see the hate, the way they talk, the way they attack women, the way they talk about women, they attack dead relatives. I've seen hate. So again, you start getting into, well, this is too much for you, this is too much for me. When does it end? I think everybody just has to kind of do their own thing, focus on what they want to focus on, bring attention to what they want to bring attention to, and that's it. Stop trying to force people to think like you. Stop trying to convince people that they're bad people. Listen, that's your opinion. You could say somebody's bad. I'm sure after this episode, I'm going to get a million people saying I'm a bad person. That's life. Not going to bother me in the least. Not worried about it. Not worried about it. Everybody has their opinion. I'm sure a lot of people think I'm a bad person just based on, like I said, with all that bullshit with those stupid labels. If they try to say anybody in your family has a label of organized crime, you're all bad people. You're all drug dealers. You're all murderers. That's how they think. I can't change that. I don't feel that way. That's not the reality to me, but that's how they think. I'm not going to come on here and try to say, no, I'm a good person. My family's good people. Hey, believe what you want. Believe what you want. It is what it is. All we can do is conduct ourselves and keep moving forward. You all make your own determinations. That's it. After everything I've said and what I've demonstrated, if you think I'm a bad person, hey, I can't change that opinion. Nor do I want to. Nor do I want to. I'm not that insecure. You could think I'm bad. That's great. It doesn't affect. So that's it, folks. I think I ranted long enough. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I always appreciate the comments. If there's certain parts you liked or didn't like, let me know. Any constructive criticism, I'm all for it, as long as it's respectful and not some idiot just being insulting. I had a commenter last week give me some constructive criticisms on my post. He asked if I could break it up into paragraphs so it's easier to read. I made the change and did it. I have no problem. I totally get it. I like that. I like the user to tell me if there's certain things that'll make it easier. Sometimes I can do it, sometimes I can't. Or if there's certain things to make it more enjoyable or topics. I like to consider all that. So I appreciate you sticking around. I think today was pretty long. And until next time, folks, and don't forget, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next Courts in Session with the Howard Santos cross-examination by Charles Canisi. Till next time.